it's just an introduction, so it's not WineStaging approved. So I'm a disclaimer, as people just sometimes think I'm talking for my employer. As Stefan takes recorded my role in WineStaging as an interested bystander. I just got one patch accepted, and even worse than in wine, I have 4 patches in pending, and with I'm not convinced. So that was more interesting because it's for me the WineStaging why I got those patches is very interesting for automated patch watcher, and there I know the patches are compiled and work and stuff like that. So it was easier to get the patch series there and test the patches there. Just the history, I think it was about 2012. I'm not sure when Eric Hoover started with the first work on that. He wanted Netflix on Linux. He used the Windows Firefox and the Windows plugins. There were quite a few WineBugs for Silverlight requiring tricky patches. And I think he was using Ubuntu or still using Ubuntu, and that was one way too old, and he was rolling his own PPA or whatever they call their repo there. That's how it started. And of course, then Eric has kind of Eric's patches have an impedance mismatch with Alexander's acceptance rule, so it takes a lot of iteration. So, but if you want to fix an application or you focus on an application, you want something now and not wait. I think Michael Müller and Sebastian Lechner's age was similar, just video on Linux. I think you guys started in August 2013, right? Something like that. So they had started working on Pipelight. Windows, where the Windows only the Windows plugins run in Linux and are over pipes communicate and are embedded in the Linux Firefox. Basically, what CodeWeavers said before too. Right. Because that was that. Of course, the same issues. WineBugs for Silverlight required tricky patches, and there were additional bugs due to the plugin wrapper xembed pipes, whatever, pulse audio. Then just when Michael started, so he got the first patch in actually 2 years ago. Same for Sebastian. In October, November, I think that's where I figured out that's what the repository says. They joined forces to work on common access. That's when the WineConf folio, that basically the precursor to WineStaging, came about. Of course, issues they were trying to fix. Basically, a lot of WineBugs, especially because the tricky parts like DRM and all the part and embedding. So that was their actually primary problem. I mean, I've looked at the last version of Pipelight itself is from the plugin wrapper is from December 2014. So it's basically feature complete, bug free, nothing to do there. The remaining parts are end up getting the plugins to run. Right? So they needed always bleeding edge wine. So it's and plus risky not upstreaming yet patches. I mean, something that they knew they could break other stuff, so it's not upstreamable yet. So they had to run their own specialized wine for that specific application. It was just a specific application. And then the other issue is that some popular Linux distribution package Stone Age or stable wine versions and even have it broken. I don't want to make names here, but yeah. Very popular with new users, stuff like that. Linux user distribution is kind of problematic. And they had also problems with running on maintaining their packages. So wine was kind of, I say Ubuntu had a lot of problems. Nobody was, until recently when somebody took over Debian and Ubuntu, that was basically what was upstream in the distribution, so it was not very great. And of course, so to get Pipelight to run on those, they had to bundle wine. And a special update they did it, I think they dropped in opt or something like that. So not to conflict with the normal wine, also people doing that. But of course, there are distributions that really, really hate that, or hate having two different, or what they call forks of the same product in, which is, of course, the Pipelight first presentation was at WineConf FOSDEM, so that's when most people maybe got attention of that, and then pipeline presentation at Linux Stack, and then my presentation at Linux Stack. So we kind of stumbled across each other. So what could go wrong? We went out and drink a beer. So and that's basically where my presentation ends. Anastasios Fochtas, basically, yeah, Robert came and then to my wine presentation, we went out, drank a couple of beers and talked about the issues he's seeing. Like, I probably can talk what we talked about then, right? Yeah, okay. He was very frustrated with user support part because he's doing a lot of support and having to troubleshoot and redebug the same issues that he debugged 2 or 3 years ago within Bugzilla with patches in there, and the user was frustrated. It took him a lot of work even to start. He said he has like his own patch queue of 20 or 30 patches to get to the interesting debugging stuff, because there were some easy, trivial stuff. Like, I know that Austin helped him with a lot of the trivial patches getting in, but there were a ton of patches in there. My frustration was, well, with for whatever reason, some people think I have a good GR rank and I know how to get patches in, and I have a crystal ball. I know how to figure that stuff out, and then sometimes I'll have to, people come to me, I don't mind helping, but it's tedious and the reviewer burn out and the same issue. And I'm following the Linux kernel. I never contributed there, but for my janitorial and all the stuff, I follow the Linux kernel. And back when they introduced the staging part, I was thinking of doing that. I think I talked to the WineConf with Alexander. He was not convinced. So I didn't have the time, resources, and the skills to do it. So I just didn't follow up on that. I mean, I cannot tell somebody else to do the work. And Sebastian and Michael said that the idea, and Eric, that they are starting to get requests from users to add their own patches to other patches, because there's, the WineStaging was working, they used for pipeline, but was working better for their application. They were using that patch, and the patch was already in Bugzilla or something like that. So they had, by the time they already started to have some patches in, non-pipeline, whatever related, and it's basically, the staging is basically a patch queue on top, which gets applied on top of wine. So just if you have your own 100 patches in, or you had not a couple of patches more, it doesn't make a difference. They had it automated, just like rebase and all that stuff. It kept the refresh. That's when my interest started, because I kind of felt bad for the people that come and submit patches, and their patch drops out of the queue. There was like a USB patch that was old and not refreshed, and then somebody that was already working on. Yeah, sorry. And I always want to have something like that to just do it myself. So when they said they can do it and want to do it, I was like, said, oh sure, do it. Just try to encourage them, and actually proposed to ask them why they don't call it WineStaging, to make it more officially, to just take the heat out of the discussion, to say that, like, not yet like another random fork like Play on Linux, something like that. Just try to make it official. So what could go possibly wrong? So. And then I just was interested by that, and just talking basically. So just explaining the old rules, because it kind of was a little bit non-transparent, and trying to the whole history and trying to calm the people down, civilized. So basically, yeah. So that was my work I did on it. Nothing else. So all the credit goes to them. So I just trying to keep them motivated, not run away. So, and of course, it's like with WineStaging. If somebody comes, I'm not a trusting person either. So let's see what's happened. So it's like, and I told them that Alexander prefers code. So just do it. Don't talk about it. So like, yeah, just do it.
Well, and there's more material. So the other things that WineStaging has done is it's being used now by a number of distributions as a default wine. 1, 2. It's been I know that Sebastian, I know that you guys have been very active in helping developers get, you've taken a bucket of patches which are not obviously correct, right? And you put a lot of work into massaging those patches, sometimes making them more correct. And sometimes even when they're not obviously correct, putting them in a binary package and getting them to users. So there's been some user joy out of it. There's been some developer help out of it. That's been a very positive.
Yeah, it's even helpful because I've seen once the React was moved also to the WineStaging and they started doing the tests. So they were at one point they introduced regression in the testing and they were all on them. So it's helpful for you to beat somebody on the test. So yeah.
Right, but then there's a challenge because it's, there's the, is it officially a wine product, right? Is it officially supported in the wine Bugzilla, yes or no? Then you've got the challenge of if someone reports a bug against WineStaging, well, okay, these are patches that are known to be not obviously correct. So if there's a bug, it's sort of not surprising, and do we?
Yeah, but the other thing is, I mean, nobody, like Alexander said, nobody's using basically, the majority don't use plain wine. They just use your commercial product or they use the distribution which is already highly patched. I mean, like Fedora, they advised that was the first one to jump ship, and due to policy and stuff like that, and that's the difference. Sebastian and Michael went and talked to them, and they were very happy that somebody talks to them and that they're fixing their problem. They have like maintaining all those patches and keeping them fresh, whatever they have inside. And so that's why they moved to WineStaging, even though they were advised against it. And that's when it became public, and since then most people know the kind of the history or something like that. So yeah. So they had another problem, and it was easy to just start adding the patch queues because they already had that, all the refresh and all the other stuff. So it was started out of as a specialized wine for a specific application use case, and because how the tooling was, it was easy. And of course, I mean, they knew what they were doing, unlike me, because I wouldn't have had the skills to do a WineStaging. So it's just over the time or something like that. So if you need somebody, yeah.
So, all right, so I want to, just from driving the discussion, right? So this is largely encapsulating WineStaging. I think we haven't articulated the concerns around WineStaging and some of the frustration that...
Well, I can go on ahead on that one. The problem was that, well, it's not a problem, but Sebastian, Michael, and Eric went out and talked to the people, to the authors of the patches, and I mean, they got all the frustration of the patch acceptance. So it was like, yeah. So, and some people didn't give it very filtered to them. So that's where they got the bad feedback about wine.
So how diverse? I mean, how different is it now? Like, I mean, what's the diff? I guess how big is it between?
Well, I had
wine. Are we talking like?
No, I haven't.
No, it was hundreds of. It was like 170 not that long ago. Is that right?
Well, the biggest part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
700. 700 now. Yeah.
That's significant.
Even my command stream is over 200 of that.
But conceptually one is
Yeah, they gave me a script to get it out. It's not quite correct for the numbers. I mean, for the upstream numbers. I wanted to add it in the presentation, but
don't worry about it, Michael.
But I guess the point is now it's getting to a point where really it's becoming just so different than. I mean.
But a lot of patches get into wine, so it's not like it's getting always different. Let me show you. It actually plateaued off. Can I put it on the other one?
So how much of a success rate do you have in changing over patches and getting them in?
If he goes up to Widetree to send them, then he was good.
Dang. Okay. Basically, that's generated from that. So how many patches I have in without the CSFP? That's the blue line. It starts to plateau off. And that's the amount of patches they got in. The calculation of that is kind of
So the plateau is good to see, but what we really want to see is the blue line going down, right?
Well, yeah, you have stuff, but stuff people need to accept the patch, so it's.
All right, explain this graph a little bit. They're on the same scale.
Yeah, it's number of patches. Well, one is total number of patches, and that's the current number of patches at that time in the.
So
what's cumulative?
okay.
One's cumulative, the orange one is cumulative, or yellow, whatever.
So once a patch turns yellow, it's taken off the blue.
Yes, basically. And the yellow one is just the patches for the last 2 years for Sebastian, Michael, and Eric. It doesn't count all the patches from Christian Costa or something like that. That went through staging. It's hard to measure that. So it's basically all the patches from.
So if
and I know that Sebastian also sent some janitorial works which he didn't push through staging because it didn't make sense to push janitorial works through staging.
So if I understand it right, if I get my command stream in, it will get off the blue but not count to the yellow.
No, this is
Yeah,
without.
right, without, but
Yeah, because the
conceptually-
TSMT is kind of skewing the numbers so big that it's kind of not. So yeah.
But what's the turnover rate? Because you're getting patches in, but you're having more patches come to you at the same time.
Yeah, and basically we can't send each patch upstream right immediately. For example, some patches are still work in progress. The developers provide an early version of the patch set, and we say, okay, it's fine enough for WineStaging, but you have to fix first these additional issues before it makes sense to send upstream. Or I've to admit we've also a couple of patches to fix bugs where just no perfect solution is known. So in such cases, it also doesn't make much sense. When I already know that they will not be accepted, it would be a waste for Alexandre to review them and give feedback. So
What about Ken's regression? You still it is fixed now, no, or it's still
No, it's still,
just the
question is still there.
yeah. So it's basically the revert of Ken's patch that where we send like 3 versions of that and then produces stuff, and it's still in there. It just as a revert. That's the only revert in there because there's no even though those smart guys didn't figure out how to fix that correctly. So yeah, it just reverted in there.
I think we would take into account that we try to do some compromise between satisfying the users by also providing workarounds if there's no solution. If you know that this is a workaround that wouldn't cause any regression, but it's like, well, it's not really correct, but it's good applications work with it. And on the other hand, we try to get some good code that we can send upstream, and there are 2 aims that we try some compromise between them. And some of these patches will be workaround, and maybe we are waiting for someone to find a better solution. But for the other patches, we really try to improve them, and it's also sometimes encourage the contributors if they have gotten some of their patches upstream into WineStaging at least. It's like, okay, we did some work, now improve it, then we can upstream. If you just reject the patch, and it's easily that they say, oh no, it's too hard, I give up. So I think it's hard also for us that the people really continue, because it's also like, oh, I got my patch in, now it's done.
The complaint I hear is that dragging Sebastian to even Michael complained that Sebastian is as big as Alexander, or even sometimes even more.
So do you ever take patch out of staging, like we discussed with us?
Yes, sometimes if a patch turns out to be wrong, that it's actually looked right on the first, then it also happens that we remove them later, but we also have a way to disable patch, so it's still in the repository, but it's not getting applied, because we have some separate scripts, so where you can say, okay, I want all patches, I just want C's and T, I just want some other patches, and then it's like, okay, for example, if there was a code change in Wine, and we say, oh, there's a lot of effort necessary to make the patch work again, then we disable it so you can see how it works, and hope that someone of us will pick up the work and rebase it, but you can still see the old patch, we do not directly remove it. But it also turned out that the patch is wrong, or we replace the patch because we see the solution was not good enough.
And basically, there are always, on one hand, we, our repository basically just contains patches, so it's not really necessary to use full staging. We also add references sometimes to upstream bug reports, where we provide reference to our patch set, or So users can always grab this patch set and don't have to use staging. But yeah, from our experience, most users can't really buy wine on their own, or at least need a lot of help. So the binary packages are mainly for user convenience. For developers, it's not really necessary to use them. They can just pick those patches they're interested in and apply them on their own.
Yeah, that's why the website, I don't have a network here, so I would have shown that it's easy. I see the website with all the patches they have in and the bugs they fix. Like something like the list of like the regression summarizing of the bugzillas we have with patch in there, and then they're kept fresh, and then the patches are kept fresh. So it's, I see it as a tool. And then, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, and I know people try to troubleshoot this. Try with wine. If it's not working with wine, try with WineStaging, because it might be just fixed there, or the workaround there, and then you can do. That's what I did. I tried with wine and then WineStaging, because if it works with WineStaging, then I know one of those patches is interesting, and I can do a regression test to find what fixes the application. So it's a tool to get to faster. I'm not using that many applications. I'm not that used to bring application up what to run with wine. So for if you do it just seldom, it's just nice to see if is that problem at least known. Because if it's not known, there's a patch in Bugzilla, it will be in WineStaging. So saves my time, because I don't do that often.
So I'd like to try to summarize this a little bit if I can, and I want to see if this is right. One of the main features of WineStaging is that it's a way that the Widetree itself is too high a standard. It's a very high standard, so it's held as correct code and only correct code. And so then what you have is a range of useful patches that do user-visible, valuable things that help the user. And WineStaging is to a large extent providing a mechanism to get those patches into a user's hand. And then additionally, you have very graciously been providing or attempting to get those patches into a state where they can go into wine. Is that a fair summation?
Yeah, but it helps also like people like Vogt, because he for troubleshooting his stuff, because all the stuff he already debugged and has his own.
Right. So
it's also a debugging tool.
Right. Yeah. So there is a solution. It's known not to be obviously correct, and this is a mechanism of getting it into users' hands. But obviously, the problems with it, right? 600 patch difference. That's large, right? I mean, that's
plus about 170 season T patches.
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, that's
how many patches are in the crossover?
a lot less than that.
Yeah, but those patches are real fixes, not just hacks for an application, you know. So
yeah. Right. I mean, I don't know what our delta is, but it's not 600.
You guys looked at for patches to rebuild of the crossover. How much do they have in?
Well, we have the command stream as well.
See the number of patches, but from the lines of changed code, we currently, I think we had more than the crossover, but I don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah, no, I looked at this at one point, and we have far fewer. We have the command stream, right? So we have that. And our hacks also tend to be more application specific. So we'll
unclean.
We tend to bracket it. If it's Office, do this horrible thing, you know, not.
And we branch for every port that we do, so you won't see that it doesn't go in the main crossover.
Right.
So we have much less now than we used to.
Yeah. Because it's a pain to maintain 600 patches. So just
it's not bad.
Basically, all the daily, because Sebastian's doing great work on doing daily rebases.
Yeah. So I follow what they do and the patches, how much work it is, and on the diffs and stuff like that. Most of the time, it's just like the patch header changes. Even the CSMT patches are a lot easier for them to rebase than for Stefan.
Sure. But
I mean daily or something
with
like that.
With that said, so that's, I mean, there are problems with it, right? I mean, there's a marketing problem of user confusion, right? Do I want wine or do I want staging? I don't know. You know, and there's not a clear articulation by the wine community, right? Like, we should either tell you guys to go jump in a lake or we should get behind you, right? One or the other. There's no lake, so river, I guess, you know.
Danube.
Oh, there are lakes.
Okay.
But, the big one we have.
Stop being helpful.
No, actually, you can jump into Lake Neusiedl, but you just won't drown because I think the deepest part is 3 meters deep. It's a shipping route.
So,
But everything else is just 1 meter.
and I think Henri has articulated a number of very valid concerns that, Henri, do you want an opportunity to articulate those, or have you?
No, I think that pretty much yes.
Okay, and I would like to try to summarize those, and I'm struggling to bring those up. So, Alexander, do you want to summarize those objections? Henri seems to.
Is that?
Sorry. It's so you've got the issue of you have the issue of user confusion. You have the issue that you have what is effectively a fork.
Yeah,
and
but we have a lot of forks, so it's not new.
Yeah, but it's a.
Each distribution is a fork.
But it's a fork. So I mean, the Play on Linux guys are not going to the Linux distributions and saying this is wine, right?
What's
They're-
new is that it's a developer fork. All the other forks, I mean, it's not.
Well, yeah, the other one would be the crossover, and then there is a
Right.
developer.
I mean, like crossover is a fork, but crossover doesn't claim to be wine, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't.
when Fedora forks wine by adding patches to their wine package, they are not developing new much.
Well, they're still doing it. I mean, with the pulse out the patches, Martin, and all that stuff. So there is that fork too out there. Basically, they used that before.
It's not like they add a lot of patches on modifying wine. Whereas
The pulls out the patch that also contains other modifications to the multimedia part of Wine. So it's not just a new output on a driver which you disable and then it's plain Wine, but instead.
What I mean is, new developers are not going to send their patches to the Fedora fork instead.
Well, they do it for pulls out the multimedia stuff.
Whereas they are going, then I guess the fear of the community is that people will send patches to WineStaging instead of sending them to wine. That's what sets.
I think most developers are aware of the difference, and basically all developers, before tried to send their patches upstream. It's not like that we have a huge amount of the patch submissions from users who just don't know the difference and think they want to get it upstream exactly there, but they're mainly interested.
Getting the patching, that's what for them counts. It doesn't matter how. So, and then look at that. Look at Reactor. They were based also on staging, and they still Reactor as people that submit straight to Wine. It's not like it's working that bad on the developer side. It just and there are people that got so frustrated with this Wine patch acceptance process that they refuse to work with us in Wine. But they return back. They said like they're done with Wine. And now with the help of WineStaging, they talked to the people, they got them back and started doing more work. And that's, for me, one of the big wins of WineStaging. So we lost a couple of people, if they were worth it or not, but they still do a lot of work for wine. And if somebody just, the WineStaging shields those people from wine.
But it can create a problem too, right? I mean, one of the things that Wine has historically done, so let's look at Pulse Audio, is the easy solution for the users is to include the patch that's not obviously correct. And then the users are happy, but then the developers are not motivated because the users stop bitching.
Well, the
right?
patches are obviously correct. It's not how do you get it in. So it's not like the patch is bad code or something like that, but how do you get it in?
No, but if it's not obviously correct, that's the problem. The point is that if the users are happy and they stop bitching, then the developers are not motivated to do it right. And so then you end up with a bad patch that goes in and stays in forever, and you need. This is a problem with the problem. So Wine has historically used being broken as a tool.
Yeah, but
right?
we're broken for too long.
No. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's.
There's
like,
two sides.
There's two sides.
Yes, of course there's two sides.
Frustrate developers to push them to improve their patch. But the risk is that for some other developers, you are going to discourage them, or they are going to develop entirely.
Right.
So Wine has chosen the frustrate so to motivate, but sometimes it doesn't work. And WineStaging has chosen the path of accepting imperfect patches as a way to motivate
Right.
developers. You have two ways. You have the stick and the carrot. WineStaging has chosen the carrot, and we have chosen the stick.
You could say, yeah.
And I mean, for 600 pages, I take another WineFork. So if somebody wants to fork again and still submit 600 pages, be my guest. That's my opinion on that.
I think one of the big problems is if a new person has never committed anything to Wine, just notice that one big feature is missing. This work on a Git Repository is creating like 14, 15 patches for some new DLL or something like this, and then he did some wrong design decisions, wants to get this patch upstream, but then Alexander will tell you, no, that doesn't work this way, you have to rewrite this, and maybe he still has some C++ comments in it and such stuff, and so you have many retries. At some point the user might just give up. And I think it's also important to get people to show their work in progress patches so that you can also prevent them from doing this kind of stuff, so that you can say, no, that's not correct, and the user has the possibility to correct it before sending a final version, because I think on Wine it's still not usual that people really come with their work in progress stuff. Most patches are like, okay, I've done everything, because most people are long-time developers here. I think there are not so many new developers here, and I think they're just used to it. They know how the code should look like, and they're sometimes way on Wine level where they show, okay, here's my idea, it is okay. I think it's easy to lose new people if you just work and say, okay, your patch must be perfect before we accept it, and you need to motivate them somehow to stay.
I mean, the other part is that, like Alexander said, he gets burned out by those having to reply all the time to the same C++ comments in there or something like that, and just waste the reviewer bandwidth on the Wine side. So,
Won't people still be motivated to get correct patches in if there's always this need to rebase the patches? I mean, isn't that a form of motivation? Because it's a pain.
But the developers that write the patches aren't doing that work.
Yes.
They are doing that work.
yeah, but it's automatic.
But if those two groups were not so disparate, then I mean that's a form. That's how Crossover has a bunch of patches, and Alexander doesn't want to merge around those things, and so we try to keep that small because we respect the fact that that work is really hard to do. It's a form of.
Yeah, but he does it on release or something like that. They do it daily, so the work is just a lot of automation. So it's.
But we even have hacks in our trunk that have to get remixed every 2 weeks. I mean, there are a variety of ways. It just seems like a form of motivation. I think.
Sebastian, have you ever removed a patch from WineStaging because it couldn't rebase well? The code had changed too much and you couldn't rebase the patch, so you just removed the patch?
Well, in one case, I really removed the patch, but just because it was basically only cleanup so far, and it wasn't really worth keeping the patch. But all the real features, yeah, of course they will be rebased. Except there are some huge design decisions, and the whole idea doesn't work anymore. But
I think we still have one patch disabled because it used some WineGecko stuff which changed dramatically. You could not directly rebase it.
Yeah, for example, one patch, yeah, because of WineGecko changes. But
it's still in the repository, but it wouldn't compile. So you can take a look at the patch. It's not really lost, but it's not compatible to convert the file. So it would need some rebasing for it to be usable. But we do not want to remove it because the logic behind was okay, but the changes in WineGecko made it broke it.
Okay, so at least in some cases, patches are being dropped from WineStaging because they're not being maintained well enough.
And so we asked the original author if he would be able to fix those problems that came due to some design changes in WineGecko, but he never had enough time, or I think he never worked on it. And
have you discussed that with Jacek at all?
I'm not sure if
no idea what was about to vote.
Yeah, but we can talk about it later.
So the one thing that I've noticed is there have been patches in WineStaging that I've just happened across that were in areas of wine that I'm interested in, but that I wasn't aware that they existed and were out there in some form. And
Probably
And
there in
maybe this
Mozilla
is
too.
something that I just need to find a way to follow more closely, but I kind of feel cut out right now.
For most of the patches,
Process.
we link, we provide a link on the bug tracker. So yeah, most of the time when you just look at the corresponding bug report, there should be a reference, where the patch is located.
Which
But how does he
bug
figure out
tracker?
that? Because, I mean, which bug tracker and
For those problems who also apply to unpatched wine, we provide a reference there. So
I guess what you would like is to receive an email which added a patch for that in the wine mono code area.
I just want to add one other comment, because of course I can understand that some of the people who don't follow the wine staging process so closely feel a bit left out. But all the things we do are public. So we have a public IC channel, public bug tracker, public repository. In contrast, CodeWeavers doesn't have anything like that. So we also feel a bit left out for all the details.
So,
But
go
I
ahead.
think CodeWeavers goes to the wine patches maybe from wine
Yeah, but
patches.
just the difference.
Yeah.
A different example is, it's not about the patches or the same patches, but more about the bug reports we've also talked. For example, take a look at the CodeWeavers source code. I mean, we don't have access to the repository, so we don't see the individual patches, but you have
We
bug
don't.
numbers written if you added a hack for an application. So it
So-
will also be interesting for us to know not the details from you, but just like this, we added this bug to fix the following application.
Patch.
Patch this, patch that.
But that's all available publicly. All you have to do is come look at it.
Something
No,
I'm
our
working
bugs
on.
are not public.
Not the bugs, but the source.
Yeah,
The source code, what source code does that?
We don't tend to, it's mandatory to put the bug number in, but it's not mandatory to explain the problem. The bug number is a,
So you just see a string
Yeah.
compare application name, bug, CX.
We also don't have a process where we rebase all of our CodeWeavers patches on top of Wine. We just do merges every release, so we don't really have a set of patches that we can examine. So that's kind of an organization problem for us.
Actually, you do. You just don't separate them as patches. You just have them in the tree forever.
We have patches that are no longer the patches that represent the difference between WineHQ and Crossover somewhere in our history, and the ones that are in our history are often merges that don't have the correct parent, so you have to go around to like other older branches to find the actual patch. It's a bit of a mess.
What you want to know is you want to know that the kernel patch is happening for this application, but as a company we cannot necessarily tell you we are working on this application. Like if it's a game that has not been released yet, we don't want to let anyone know that we are working on this game. We are perfectly fine to send patches publicly that fix the game. We just cannot tell you that it fixes this game because we cannot tell you that we are working on this game.
Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely understand that for a company it's much easier to do it this way. I just wanted to show it for comparison, because for us, for WineStaging, everything is publicly. Basically, the easiest way to find out what's going on is to take a look at the commit logs and
yeah, but that's
look
a
at
thing for a wine developer. You have to look at the wine source, repository, at the wine patches. And now you also have to look at the wine writer, but now you also have to look at the wine staging writer at the wine staging.
No, you don't have to look at the WineStaging Mozilla. No, you don't have to look at the WineStaging Mozilla. It's another place. I mean, it's not.
I mean, you have to look at not just wine stuff, but also at wine staging stuff to know what's new in your specific area.
Yeah, but it's not that hard to follow. I mean,
Yeah, it's just some kind of this, if you're just interested to know, for example, each release which was added. So at the moment we add on each release a list with all added patches, and every patch has a link to the corresponding bug. Also, all the application name, if there was no bug, and I just stumbled on it by accident. So it's not like we are really trying to make it visible which patch belongs to which application. Also, every patch is put into a folder with the name of the module which was changed and it's a short description. And there's also a description file with the bug number, upstream bug number for which this patch was made. And we also try to put a link into the upstream bug tracker. So it should from both directions, should be able to reach the corresponding patch.
I feel like I don't know. I mean, we do release our source, but it's true we don't release our Git history and all of that. And I'm not sure that we exactly could in all cases because of what Francois said. But something that's really surprising and kind of confusing to me is that, like, I have to make crossover releases, and I have a tool to do that, which is a branch into which hacks can go. And if there's something that needs to get fixed, there's going to be a hack to get that fixed. And it's just baffling to me that the wine community lacks that tool, basically. I mean, staging is kind of that tool, right? But it's a little bit separate. So I feel like there's no way that I could release crossover if I had to use origin master in wine. So some kind of, so I don't know that we can give you exactly our tool, but having some kind of analogous tool for the community just seems important.
Yeah, but you don't want to have the hacks, because those are not necessarily hacks, not the hack for an application. That's actually the main difference. They try to have the code.
Sure, right, yeah, different. I mean, maybe I use hack in a different way, but yeah.
Well, in some ways, if you don't mind, I think this is blending into kind of the release conversation. I'm sorry, Eric, there's a couple points. You guys go, and then I'll try to.
I think that's a philosophy difference between wine and WineStaging also, which is that wine doesn't want to accept workarounds on bad patches because we don't want the code to accumulate.
Right.
But that means we kind of throw users under the bus. Means we could fix a bug, but in the wrong way. But we won't do it to not jeopardize future development. And WineStaging puts users first.
No.
Okay.
Not necessary. Not necessary.
You are willing to compromise.
No, it's not like play on Linux or something like that where they don't do that. It's just
you are still willing to accept workarounds.
No, unfinished patches. It's a difference. Unfinished patches.
You're kind of playing on both. But still, you are willing to accept stuff that wine refuses because you think it's not perfect. And you do it while you don't do it just for the fun. Because it helps users. You put more emphasis on users.
Yeah, but the patch could be correct. I mean, do the correct things in general, but the code might show lack of taste or whatever, how you want to display it, like people code. It's not looking clean enough. Could be done simpler or stuff like that. So it doesn't necessarily that the patch is wrong. It's just the form is not necessarily there.
Yeah,
could be done simpler, it could be done more, and probably would need tests. Sometimes you need tests. Then that's what some of those hacks is like. You need somebody that understands that to write the test. So it's the code. Most likely the fix is 1 line or 2 line, and probably correct. It's just somebody needs to write the test. That one is the only difference.
But for this package, then they are meant to go into
wine
in
the future.
In the future.
Yeah.
It's just some temporary patch.
So what you're saying is that workarounds you reject.
Yeah, if it's a workaround in the kind of crossover uses, I would reject it because checking application names or things like that, we don't want that in our version. But if it's an unfinished patch, for example, a function where the implementation is clearly implemented, but it's sufficient, and maybe even has some tests for these cases, then it might be a good starting point. And yeah, our idea is also a bit to motivate developers to work together. For example, the first person just writes the initial code, which is sufficient for one application. Then the next person is maybe motivated to fill in the rest in a separate patch, and yeah, things like that.
And there's also one difference, which also might be a bit crazy, but we sometimes even know that this patch is not completed. It might cause regressions, but we said, okay, we put it out one version. If we do not run into the issue of making regression, we will never find out if this is the correct solution or not. For example, the MSI patches, I don't know if you heard about the deferred action stuff, that some of these installation commands must be deferred in the order. And okay, in which order are they exactly executed on Windows? You have a large number of actions, and you have to figure out which are actually deferred and which are not executed deferred. So there's only one way. You have to think about it, write one patch, and then you need to put it out and see if someone reports regression, and then fix it. And when we know when we think it's okay, then we try to send it upstream, and then it's also less risky for upstream.
I think an even better example is one of the fixes I wrote for unbinding of thread context in TDLL, and there was a bug report, and I wrote a patch to fix the issue, and yeah, basically, and added it to our repository. And then one version later, it turned out the patch was basically correct, but it required some changes in other areas. So after these additional issues were fixed, the patch was basically complete, and then it also got accepted upstream. So if I wouldn't have had a chance to test the incomplete patch, I probably wouldn't have figured out a complete solution.
So I'm gonna go back to what I think Vincent was trying to raise. He didn't get into. As a wine developer who's been working and who hasn't had as much time recently, but who has been focused on wine and hasn't been looking at wine staging, I become completely unaware of any changes that are happening in wine staging in the areas that I have been working on in wine. So even areas where I would be more than happy to help out, or someone might have submitted a patch that I could have reviewed and could have helped out with, I'm completely unaware.
Actually, I'm looking at, you brought up there, you do write up a thing every release, and I'm looking at the website now. It might be useful if you sent this or a link to this to, say, Wine Devil. And
yeah, but then it would be covered in flags before, so it's like...
Okay. Well, otherwise, it's hard for me to follow this as a static website. I might actually send you a patch later to like make an RSS for this or something, because this is really useful for me.
I mean, if the end of the conference turns out that WineStaging can indeed be accepted as part of official WineHQ, then of course, sending a weekly mail to the mailing list or something like that is not a big deal.
I mean, they're part of the community. Even Play on Linux is part of the greater wine community, if we accept it or not. So they're, or at least ecosystem. So, yeah.
Right, but so for me as a developer, right, I have a limited amount of time.
But yeah, those patches are mostly.
I'm not going to read Play on Linux and WineStaging and every single people in the community looking for something of interest.
Yeah, but those patches are partly out of the Bacilla, of the wine Bacilla. They uncovered them from there. So it's not like they were visible for wine developers. They are there with their patches for the stuff.
Most of the patches that are in WineStaging come from us, from someone in this room. My patches, my command stream, I checked the D3D patches in WineStaging. Some of them were debug hacks and reposted on Bacilla just to find out if this is the problem. So yeah, we are the authors of that stuff.
Patch, you know, so it's like still an unfinished patch.
Yeah.
But then if that's the case, if there are any of my patches that are in WineStaging, I'm unaware of that.
Yeah.
Which means that I'm not helping getting them upstream because I probably posted them on a bug somewhere, didn't get a response or said one thing or the other, and then just discarded it because I didn't, it was a testing patch for me, it did something to check something out, I didn't get the answer back I'm looking for.
Well, I think there are answers to that patch on Bacilla, but usually I only know the D3D patches.
Right.
But
yeah, but that's WineStaging. It makes it easier for you to see your patches.
Right, but that makes me then have to do twice as much amount of work to try and track.
That's where the maintainer list that Julia was talking about might be helpful.
Right.
Because if you're working a certain DLL, you can look up who's in the maintainer list, you know them, see them on WineStaging Bacilla, see them on Play on Linux Bacilla.
No, I think, Eric, there's a real issue here of bifurcation, and a bifurcation of community. There's a real problem that there are two places to go and look. That's a problem.
I have to agree that we are discussing the problem and how we work, how workarounds. But what I would like to see, and what we all would like to see, if the stuff merges closer together. So the first time I looked at the WineStaging patch set was some weeks ago, and there are 700 plus something patches, and
there is 1 year worth of wine development work in there, approximately, or plus minus. So it's a huge amount of features. It's not just little more stuff workarounds. It's really a huge amount of feature work, which is okay from my view, close to acceptance for the mainstream. So it just needs to get brought over.
But they're doing it. They got 600 patches in, so it's not like.
Yeah.
But there are 3 people, so if somebody wants to help out.
So the input rate to WineStaging is higher than what currently goes upstream.
No, because it's not patch stuff plateaued, so it's not ramping up anymore.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into WineStaging that should actually also go to WineStaging itself. So,
the real problem is not. It's fine that the patches in WineStaging. I think that's a great tool, and we need both. We need good patches in upstream, and we need a way to get experimental patches. But the thing is, they put unfinished patches in staging, but then in order to finish the patches, the discussion should be in WineDevel. It should not be somewhere in a private list or in a separate ISC channel.
If
That's the main problem.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because WineDevel is not considered friendly, and
yes,
because it's easier to discuss somewhere else. But we need to fix that.
Right. And that's what I was getting to, is that I would love, if I knew about things in WineStaging by being able to follow wine, I would be, as a developer for like IMM32 or Uniscribe or whatever, I'd be more than happy to help out with that. But I'm not. I feel like that I should be able to get it through the wine communities, as opposed to having to look in every other sort of orbital community as well. And so if we can fix that, then it becomes a lot easier for me as a developer. And then I don't feel, then there's no antagonism with WineStaging, right? If an IMM patch goes into WineStaging, and then me as a developer in IMM get information about that through Wine, then I can help it out wherever it happens to be. And that makes me happier as a developer, and the users happier, and the WineStaging people happier, and the whole community happier. So right now, I feel left out because I'm not following WineStaging. And what we need to do is make that not be the case.
Yeah, but as Michael said, it was not like an intention to leave people out, but if your bug reports are being closed and you can't allow to add FTP entries and such stuff, then we had to set up our own infrastructure at some point, so yeah, we got separated.
Yeah.
Well, I think kind of the goal at the end of this WineConf is maybe so that they don't have to be that anyway.
Actually, they didn't have a Bugzilla in the beginning. It was just this tool that GitHub put there, and then stuff was sufficient to track bugs. So and then bugs in the official Wine Bugzilla were closed. So
yeah, the cause of the problem are clear, I think. They have tried to work with Wine, and Wine has not been responsive. Wine has been dismissive of the concerns, and so they created separate bug trackers, separate IRC channel, and so on. But we want to fix that.
Sure.
So as a Wine people, we need to be more welcoming for the staging guys, and the staging guys need to make the effort to work with us instead of giving up as soon as we are not welcoming enough. So we both need to help each other, I think.
I think it comes down to that we pushed them out of wine. Now we see that we are unhappy with it, and now we want to pull them back in.
Wine didn't push them out, so just try to get them to push more in stuff, but yeah.
So the question is now just how to include them. And that's a rather complicated thing, I think. No?
So the problem that WineStaging is solving is they are providing a version of wine that is very user-friendly, that has all the things a user might want, and potentially tools to let users slice that. So that in stage, in progress, things like Pulsar, things like the command stream is something that a user can get. And in addition, they've also provided a community for people to try to work those patches, so those experimental patches can get used, and the developers can work through them, right? And there's no reason that couldn't happen in Wine proper, except that we were not apparently sufficiently welcoming at the time, or maybe we didn't have a mechanism, right? We didn't.
Well,
we
it's
never-
hard to convince Alexander until it sees it working, so that's the other thing, so.
The patches part is fine. I think it's great to have a separate place for patches that are not ready to go upstream, because I don't want to compromise upstream
Right,
quality.
right.
So that's perfectly fine. I think it's great to have another way. But discussions
Right.
don't need to go to a separate place. We can all be discussing on the same channel, even if the patches go to a different way.
Don't you think that the fact that the very first thing, the first piece of infrastructure that started to branch was a Git repository for the patches is maybe a bad sign?
No, it was that's why I presented the history. It was a specific tree for a specific application. So it was just geared again for the Firefox. And then it was because they already had the tooling there, it was easy for them to just add the staging stuff to it.
I guess my point is that having a place in WineHQ to keep the patches is like maybe a seat at the table.
Right.
And that was the first thing, the first major thing that the community seemed to split on is we need this piece of infrastructure. And then from there you build a Bugzilla and you have an IRC channel because you have this separate infrastructure. And then
Well,
you
also
start
setting up a Git repository is a matter of half a minute. It's just so easy, and it's a good thing to branch,
Yeah,
to create a fork in Git.
It's easy. I'm not saying I'm just saying that it's a separate thing. And then you, I don't know. If you can't keep those patches in
begs the question
WineHQ.
of, let's say WineHQ, we decide that, to be more welcoming to WineStaging. If we set up a situation that WineStaging's patch list could be hosted in WineHQ, would you make the jump out of Git into the wine community?
Well, you don't have to keep the repository in OneHQ. I mean,
Yeah,
you can-
that makes no difference.
it makes no difference. That's not the issue. I mean, Bugzilla would be an issue because that's user visible. That discussion, where you want to have the discussion. I mean, Widetree is not that big traffic. I mean, the Marvin stuff, probably we should have to take the Marvin stuff, although I'm not sure if we